it going, Si? You doing all right?
Doing okay, Phil. How you been?
Hanging in there. Still plugging away anyway.
Yeah. Understand.
Yeah.
Do you remember our speaker last time he spoke to us?
No, I don't.
Actually, Matt Reed.
For Fort Worth Astronomical Society. This is actually our first meeting in maybe 14 months, an in-person meeting. So it's very different, and we're going to be transitioning between real meeting and then I'm getting echoes in my ears, so it's really weird. but so we're transitioning between meeting in person and then meeting through Zoom. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting. I can't find it.
We are getting an echo.
I'm looking. I think I've got everybody muted right now. Okay, so hopefully that'll cut down on some background. And I think Larry can turn his sound off. Just turn it down and we'll be good. going to be a very interesting evening. So thank you for everybody for coming. I wanted to make sure that everybody felt welcome. I'm glad we had a good number here. This is, what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, about a dozen of us here in person. So that's pretty good for our first meeting. It's great. And it really is an important step in getting normalized for the whole world. So 13, lucky number 13. But anyway, because we are sort of getting normalized, I just wanted to remind everyone to be respectful of everybody else. So for those who don't feel comfortable gathering in groups, large or small, we're keeping the Zoom going. And then for those who may be on the opposite extreme and don't even believe in the mask, that's fine too. We appreciate your coming in person and keeping your mask on so that everybody feels comfortable being together. I think we've got plenty of room in here so that we should be able to social distance as we want. Oh, for those of you who are here, I wanted to let you know that when you leave, if you go out, there's a fire lane that runs in front of the Marriott right next door. That'll take you to Westport to the freeway, so you don't have to go up and do some sort of a U-turn, okay? That'll make it a little easier for you. Okay. And you're just gonna have to forgive me because I'm just a little bit nervous with all this happening at one time. Wanted to let you know that for May, we are gonna continue to search for a temporary location, maybe one a little bit closer to the central part of Arlington, Fort Worth. And I talked to Phil earlier, and he's thinking maybe that meeting room in Arlington where the astrophotographers met might be available to us in May. So just keep your eyes on the groups and we will let you know. Okay. Most of the college campuses are not going to be open till the fall. So we probably won't be back at UNT until that point in time. The libraries, you know, if our meeting room in Arlington doesn't work out, the libraries are thinking maybe they can open up their meeting rooms this summer. So we've got options. We're just going to keep them open. And we do anticipate that we'll be keeping the Zoom going for at least a short while because it's going to take some time for people to feel comfortable getting out and about and getting in with groups of people. So we just play that by ear. Okay. I wanted to say welcome to the new members, especially. I know we've had 2 families join this past month. We've had the Stephen Kennedy family and then the Mac Sneed family. And Mac and his wife, Debbie, Mac and Debbie are here actually at our meeting. So make sure you say hi to them. And if they've signed into Zoom, wave at them. So thank you very much for coming. Okay, for those of you who don't know, of course, I'm Michelle Theisen. I'm the president right now. The other members of our board, you've got Ed Gill. He's on Zoom with us this evening. He's our vice president. John Geromini is here in the room, and he probably is also on Zoom. He's our he's our treasurer. And then we have several board members. You have Tom Roth and Larry Barker are here in the room with us. Jerry Gardner and Cy Simonson are signed in on Zoom. So they are rounding out our board. Zach Smith tonight, since Chris is not available, Zach is running this stream through YouTube, and he is also our acting secretary. He's volunteered to take notes for the next several months. He cannot officially become a treasurer until, I want to say it's August, when his membership reaches a full year. Secretary, what did I say? Oh, I'm sorry, John. I'm trying to give away your job. Zach may not want to be treasurer, so he may just want to take notes. So anyway, that's our board, and we're the ones who try to make the best decisions we can for the club with help from those of us who help us with outreach. I know Pam works with us on Tandy Hills. Patrick works with us through Night Sky Network and outreach to various organizations. And so we do have a lot of support here in the club. Okay. Wanted to go through a little bit of history with the club for those of you who aren't familiar. The Astronomical Society here in Fort Worth was actually one of the first adult amateur astronomy clubs formed in the country. And that was back in 1949. So that's like 72 years ago. And it actually grew out of a junior astronomy club that was meeting, and the adults were enjoying it so much they wanted a club of their own. So that's how we were originally formed. And that was founded by Charlie Mary Noble. And the Noble Planetarium in Fort Worth is named in honor of her. We do invite everybody's participation. Our club actually has a wide range of experience, anywhere from beginners to professional astronomers. And we also have people who have a wide variety of interests. And that's something I've always thought is a strength in our club, because you've got people who do binocular, people who do visual, the astrophotographers. Somebody's phone just popped up. So anyway, I did want to let you know that everybody, all of our members are willing to answer questions. If you have any questions, you can always put it out to a member either in person or on the e-group, and you can get an answer. And then also remember that our club is a nonprofit organization. So donations of $5, $500, it's tax deductible. So feel free to give us as much money as you'd like to help support. Okay, then finally, for the fingers crossed, for the first time in over a year, we actually plan to hold a star party in May at Tandy Hills. Obviously, that is subject to the numbers remaining level, and it will be very different from what we've had in the past. I don't think we're going to have to worry about huge numbers of people, because naturally there are going to be people who don't want to get out in public and with groups. So it will be helpful if any of our members who use computers, astrophotographers, have those available where people could view from standing a little bit away and just view a larger screen. That would be great. For those of you who want to bring telescopes, binoculars, whatever you would feel comfortable with, Pam put out some different suggestions for cleaning your equipment if you are concerned about sanitation or sanitizing between individuals. Everybody's going to be at a different comfort level. One of the things we are requesting is that the people who are out there, both the astronomers and our guests, would wear masks. And so we will be asking that of the public. I don't anticipate it will be a problem. And there will be, at least me, but probably a couple of others will be out there helping to keep and remind people to keep that social distancing. Again, it's a matter of trying to make everyone feel comfortable coming into the setting. Okay. And I think that is scheduled for May the 15th. So mark that on your calendars. Okay. Dark sky sites, because that's one of the reasons people like to join our club. Currently, we have access to 2. One of the things we ask is that the new members please do not go to the sites without first getting in touch with a seasoned member so that they can meet you out there and show you around and how to use everything and where everything is and all of that. Okay, the indicator, that is our property that we have use of thanks to the Thompson Foundation. We are their guests. At the Thompson Foundation indicator, we have electricity available, you have a restroom available, and you can always check the files in the IOS group for the code. Second site is in Ranger, Star Ranch. We lease that property from Preston Star, and it's a couple of hours out. Electricity is provided via solar panels. The astrophotographers we've talked to out there seem to have enough electricity coming through that they can power their equipment. There is a composting toilet available. Water is not available. So if you smoke, be very careful. Don't throw your butts down or anything like that. There's a fire extinguisher out there too, but hopefully you don't have to use that. And then again, the codes to access that site are found in the IOS group. Okay, I think I found 2 meteor showers that are coming up in the next couple of months. You've got the Lyrids on April the 22nd, and then the Eta Aquarius is in May the 5th. So you might want to just check into those and see if there'd be something you want to go to. Either of the sites are good for observing the meteor showers. And then I'm going to turn this over to Ed Gill, but let me make sure I have him unmuted, and Brandon for our, can you unmute yourself?
Hi, Michelle. It's Brandon. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Let me see if Ed can get up here. He may want to say some things about you. Okay, Ed, you should be able to unmute if you want to. There you go.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so without further ado, I think I'll do a screen share and do a little presentation. And let me know if you can all see this. And so that was not, there we go. Come on, there we go. So the presentation tonight is the Continuing Adventures of the Traveling Astronomer, a presentation by Mr. Brandon Hamil. Mr. Hamil hails from St. Paul, Minnesota. He's a member of that ancient Opticosaurus species. So he's an optical astronomer. Doesn't like to mess around with that camera stuff. And I'm going to have to my gallery down so I can read it. And he shares the joys of a light-polluted St. Paul with his wife, Carolyn. His 2 children, Justin and Rachel, are off to college. Justin to the University of New Mexico, and Rachel just down the road at TCU. Mr. Hamil is a member of the Minnesota Astronomical Society. He was on the planning committee and was instrumental in its club landing the ability to host the Astro League's national event AlCon 2018 held in Minneapolis. He also serves as the site leadership committee for one of his club's 4 permanent observatory locations around the state. When Brandon is not enjoying astronomy, he can be found pursuing a few of his other passions, including his family, track and field, his favorite sport, Shepherd of the Valley, Lutheran Church, and being a current events news junkie. And there's been a lot of news lately. So tonight's presentation will center around the unique astronomy experiences that anyone can participate in if they just venture out onto the road. Throughout the course of Mr. Brandon's extensive national travel, he has met many astronomy celebrities, leading authorities in our field, and owners and leaders of a wide variety of astronomy companies. During this presentation, you will hear about some of these people, several unique telescopic observing experience that you too can seek out, and numerous astronomy-related facilities that you simply must visit. Bottom line, traveling can add adventures to stargazing and offer dividends to your hobby that are simply not available in our own backyard. So, with that, then I will go back to stop sharing my screen, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Hamil.
All right. Well, this will be great. Share. E. Speed. All right. Give me 1 second here, guys. We're getting the slides pulled up here.
Are you still clicking through stuff, Brandon? Or
I
is there something
am.
wrong?
I'm trying to get my screen to share. I've done a bunch of these around the country here, and I'm running into trouble here tonight, guys. I'm not sure what's going on. It's not letting me share my
Well-
desktop.
Well, I have everybody able to share, so you should be able to.
Yeah. Stick with me, gang, because I've got a lot of content that will be much better if we're able to make this work. So I'm using my Mac computer here tonight, and it'll be really helpful for us if you can see some of the content. We're working on it, gang. Give me just a second here.
People. I can't.
Michelle, occasionally when I've had that problem, I've had to make him the co-host, but that's just a backup thing. I mean, it should work the way you're doing it, but so I'd mention that.
Try. Stick with me, guys.
And sorry, I am not finding any place to make a co-host.
Okay, I think we're making progress, everyone. All right. Holy cow. I think we're actually going to make this happen. What do you think? All right. Are you able
You're
to
showing
see
it
my
now.
desktop?
Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
Okay. Holy moly, you guys. Hey, thanks for having me here. Thanks for sticking around for a few minutes as I, fiddled with the screen, so to speak. You know, we can put a man on the moon, but we cannot figure out how to use the PowerPoint slides. Well, we're back at it, and you guys can hear me okay? A thumbs up from somebody would be good. All right. I see some thumbs. Well, I want to thank Michelle for inviting me here. I also want to thank Ed for the introduction that you gave me, and I'm glad to be with all of you. And so the title of my talk here is The Traveling Astronomer. I've had the chance to present to your club in the past, and so I'm glad that you invited me to come back. And I believe we have the absolute greatest hobby, and I really do mean that. There is none better. There's nothing better for me than being under the night sky. I can be having the absolute worst day, but if I get under the night sky, my problems just seem to go away. And I know a number of you in the organization probably feel the same way, because we're kind of the same creatures of habits of that, is what I would say. And I know many of you are kind of like me. If you walk even outside of your house or maybe out of your, a building or a restaurant at night, one of the first things you do is you look up. You look up to see if it's clear skies. I'm sure I'm not the only one that does that. So I thought I would tell you a little bit about myself and just kind of let you know about me. And so the story of my life has kind of been this: an airplane. Every week, and I do mean every week in a non-COVID world, I'm on an airplane bouncing around the United States. And growing up, I was actually never on an airplane. In fact, I didn't get on an airplane until I was a junior in college. I was 21 and saved up money to go spend the night on a floor of a buddy of mine who's going to college out in Los Angeles. But I've certainly made up for it since then. And traveling can be tough. Astronomy has been an escape for me, and astronomy has been a way for me to kind of tap into some of my more creative side. And so I will tell you that this extensive national travel I've done has allowed me to have some really cool astronomy experiences that you too can have. And that's what I want you to take away from my opening comments here, that the experiences and the concepts I'm going to show and share with you here over the course of the next hour, those are all things that you too can do. There's nothing special or privileged that I've been able to pull off that you can't do as well. So I'm hoping to inspire all of you. And I should also let you know that I'm not an astronomy expert. I'm an astronomy enthusiast, okay? My graduate degree, I have an MBA in finance, not in astrophysics. So you got to keep that in mind as you put up with me tonight. And so you might at this point, might want to turn to the person sitting next to you and say, you know, I think we should get our money back for tonight. Unfortunately, you're getting what you paid for. So, you know, you guys will have to put up with me. Now, I want to tell you something about your club, okay? Look what I have on my basement fridge. So up here in Minnesota and in St. Paul, on my fridge, I have, and I've kept this from 5 years ago when I spoke to you guys. You guys are near and dear to my heart because what you did, and I've spoken to a lot of astronomy clubs around the United States, but you were the only group that's made me an honorary member. So I was really touched by that, and I think that's pretty cool. So I wanted to share that with you. And there are many of you in the club who I'd really like to thank and call out. So Matt Reed is someone who, 5 years ago, arranged for me to speak to your club, and he's taken me out observing with him before. Cy Simonson, who's been fantastic. Several times I've interacted with him. He even came to Minnesota. He's been to my house. Seen him at national star parties, like the El Dorado Star Party. And occasionally we exchange emails. There's others, though. There's Bruce. I'm not sure if it's pronounced Coles or Cowell. He was one of the past presidents when I spoke last and awarded me a membership. Jerry Gardner and his wife, they came up to me after I had spoken last time and arranged some things for me. Peter Gottsling, another guy who lives out near Possum Kingdom, he and his wife Lynn, they've had me to their home and made me barbecue dinner. John McCrae, another member, came up and emailed me afterwards with some nice things for me. Sarah Title from the Noble Planetarium, she came up after my talk, arranged for me to visit the Race Urban Astronomy Center. Neil Wallace, another member who's allowed me to observe with his beautiful 11-inch SCT. There's other members. There's a lot of people I'm probably leaving out, but my point is I think you guys have a special club. Now, let's talk about us a little bit, the amateur astronomer. We are an unusual breed, okay? If we're honest with ourselves, I think most of the public, most of our family, most of our loved ones, they think we're unusual. And unfortunately, I think they might be correct. So here's my question to you. What do we have in common with werewolves and with witches? Think about that for a second. What do we have in common with those two groups? The answer is this. We're people who know when the moon is full. And there aren't too many other people out there like that. So no wonder why people think there's something wrong with all of us, is what I would say. And sometimes my wife, she will, she doesn't understand me always. I can be out observing maybe on the field, and I think I am quite the astronomer. I'm someone to be reckoned with, and I think I look cool dressed like this, right? You know, this is the Dark Sky Apparel observing hood, which is a must for everyone to have, I think. But what does my wife see? She doesn't see this amateur astronomer. She sees this guy. She sees Emperor Palpatine. And so I think sometimes we can be perceived a little bit on the funny side. Couple more jokes, and we'll get serious here, guys. So here's what I have: a shiny new toy, right? I've got the super telescope up here. Let me tell you what this is. Have you ever been approached by an enthusiastic club member and you get the chance to look through their telescope, and if they're discouraged, because sometimes you can get, especially if you're a newer member, you get discouraged. You can always, I actually have this thing, it's called the super telescope. It's kind of fun. You can buy it at a dollar store. And you can say, well, compared to the super telescope, you're actually doing pretty well. This thing is what you don't want to have new people use. What I like, and something that's kind of funny on the screen, it's in the bottom right-hand corner. I just put an arrow there. You can discover the space wonders or spy on squirrels in your backyard. I think the latter is probably what it's best for. I've actually often thought about this little super telescope, about maybe building a shadow box for it with a glass front and a mount, and put it on an observatory wall with a sign that says, in case of an emergency, break the glass. I thought that might be kind of fun. All right, we're going to move on. Syndromes and disorders. I said we're kind of an unusual group, right? I really believe that to be true. And one of our syndromes and disorders that all of us seem to have is this: aperture fever. It's a terminal illness. And I hate to say it, but it is. And there's no cure for it. The only treatment is the form of bigger and bigger telescopes. So what am I talking about? Do you remember this ad campaign that Orion did called the Monster Dob series, okay? And then look at this thing. So the person, if you look at the left image there, is a 6 foot tall person. I'm 6'2", so that's basically about the right height. And that's kind of what it is. Now, what I want to tell you, this was an actual telescope that they were selling and making. It was made by master optician Norman Fulham out of Canada. So I have no doubt these optics were probably first class, and they were made of low expansion borosilicate glass. But I love the sales language they used. Forget averted vision with the Monster Dob. It's 50 inches of aperture, for crying out loud. Oh yeah, you're gonna need a tall ladder. Now I don't know about all of you, but I can't imagine going home and telling my spouse, hey, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to go on that anniversary trip because I need instead to go buy a cherry picker or a scissor lift to be able to reach the eyepiece, which is going to be about 20 feet off the ground. And here's another thing, which I thought was my last comment on the Monster Dob. It's an aluminum truss structure, they say. The telescope's actually designed to be portable. It's only got an assembled weight of 400 pounds. So unless you're Superman, I'm not quite sure you'll be able to pull that off. But that is no joke, an actual advertisement from those folks. All right, and sadly, I think the disorders, they're getting worse, and that's something else I would maybe tell you. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Great Conjunction. So I think a lot of people around the country were pretty excited back toward the end of December when we had Saturn and Jupiter with the really close conjunction that they had. We had really bad weather here in the Twin Cities. And so I knew, I got up that morning, I was checking all the models, but it looked like if I drove out of state, I would get some clear skies. So me and another buddy, we rendezvoused. Actually, we were able to be just inside our state limits, but it took me about 2.5 hours to find clear skies. And we got there just in time. And, that's what the night sky looked like. Now that picture is actually from TeleView Corporation from an email they sent out. That's not my picture. No, I'll show you my picture. My picture is the next picture. That's my pick, just a little bit different, huh? So again, I'm a visual astronomer, but my friend had this gadget where you put your phone over the IP, you know the drill, and that's kind of the image I've got. So what you see on the left is really what you see on the right, just slightly different, okay? And there's a picture of me that my friend Conrad took. That's one of my many scopes, and I'm in my party. It was so cold and miserable up here that night, but the conjunction was really pretty cool. As you can see over my shoulder there, you got the belt of Venus. So I actually had some really nice night for the brief 45 minutes that he and I could stomach the cold. So, all right. Now I have a case of what I call conjunctivitis. So another syndrome and disorder. On top of my aperture fever and my eclipse addiction, it just keeps getting worse, gang. And I think a lot of you are probably like me. So, all right. Now we've gone through the silly stuff. Now it's time to get serious. So I'm thankful that I get the chance to present to all of you. And it looks, this is an unusual format where half of you are in person, the other half are online. I've never quite done this type of presentation this way, but I wish I were there with you in person. It'd be a lot of fun to be that way with all of you. So I call my talk the Traveling Astronomer, and I have a lot of really new content for all of you. For some of you may remember parts of my talk from last time. I actually went back and kind of know what some of the slides were I covered, and so I tried to present you new stuff. I'm always getting new material anyway and adding to my talk. So here's what the agenda is going to look like for tonight. We're going to talk about observatories and planetariums, and I'm also going to highlight some experiences and people that I've encountered in places that you may want to live or go to and travel. I'm also going to talk about some unique opportunities that we have for the Minnesota Astronomical Society that I believe I can orchestrate for your club as well. So stay tuned on that. And then ideas for your club to consider, right? That's another thing that I like to talk about is I always like to share, some best practices that I've seen around the country, and also including stuff from my club, the Minnesota Astronomical Society, which you see our logo over my background there. And then, some of my personal future plans in astronomy, which I'll share with you at the conclusion of our talk here today. So what I want to say is this. I think that I'm purposely not going to talk about experiences in Texas that I've had because you live there, but we certainly can talk about that offline at some point. Traveling for astronomy can bestow uncommon and unforeseen benefits. That's been my case. And for many of us, observing under that night sky can be a break from the intensity of our daily lives, maybe from our work or challenges we have. I find it broadens our horizons mentally, But traveling in particular can add a new sense of adventure for you, and it can pay dividends that you simply can't pull off in your own backyard. And so I would encourage all of you to occasionally think, because some of these destinations I'm going to mention are far away from you, but don't dismiss them is what I want to tell, because I'm going to try to bring some of these places to life during my talk with you. And I believe the occasional getaway from light pollution and heading out to further dark skies can really bring you some unique events. A trek away from home may be exactly what you need to reinvigorate yourself in this hobby. And so some of my most memorable moments in astronomy have occurred while I have been traveling. And occasionally good strokes of good fortune have come my way when I've hit the road. So this conversation and this presentation, gang, is going to be fast-paced. So buckle up, and here we go. It's a big country. Oh, the places you will go. So what adventures await us tonight? Big country, as I said. Let's see what places we're off to. Where are we off to now? Oh, my goodness. What state is that? Anybody know what state I have on the screen? The answer is Ohio, okay, for some of you who are geographically challenged. And if I were there in person, I could be rewarding those with the correct answer. So we'll have to do that at a different time. Ohio is the answer. And there's some cool things going on in the state of Ohio that I want to point out to you. The Cincinnati Observatory. This is one that all of you can go to, and it's got a big tie-in to former President John Quincy Adams. So let's jump in and see what's going on. The Cincinnati Observatory is known as the birthplace of America's astronomy. And, you know, that's a bold statement for them to lay out there, but I think once you see the story behind it, you might reach that same conclusion. It's pretty interesting. This one's located atop the rolling hills called Mount Lookout in Cincinnati. It's in a park-like setting. I will tell you, Cincinnati is a really nice town. It's got wonderful food and really good people. It's in southern Ohio. It's got very different weather and climate than Cleveland, which is to the north. So, sometimes people have a misconceived notion, I think, about what Cincinnati is. But it's home to the world's oldest telescope that is still in use. That's how they lay out that marker that it's the birthplace of America's astronomy. It consists of two buildings. Now, the upper left picture is their main flagship building, and in the bottom right is their secondary building. Right in the photo right above the bottom right is also just another view of that same building. And what I'll tell you is it houses a couple instruments. One's an 11-inch scope, and I've got some specifics on that, which is the oldest telescope in use potentially in the world, and then also a 16-inch. They're both refracting telescopes. Now, what I will tell you is the cornerstone of their original observatory was laid in 1843 on November the 9th by our sixth president, John Quincy Adams. He presided over the occasion. He was a very interesting guy and very active in astronomy. He was one of us. He was an amateur astronomer. In 1871, the University of Cincinnati took over this. They took control of the entire observatory, and it was transferred from Mount Adams, named after John Quincy Adams, to its current site, Mount Lookout. And they did that in order to kind of escape the smokestacks and some of the dirt from the city. It was very manufacturing-oriented at the time, so it remains where it is today. The 16-inch was made by Alvin Clark and Sons, and it's housed in the building you see there, and it's used for education programs. The thing I'll mention to you is the 11-inch, though, it was constructed in 1845 by a group called Mers and Mahlers, and it's housed in their Mitchell building. It's believed, at least the staff there are perpetuating this, that it's the oldest continuously used telescope in the entire world. It's open to the public. It's a lot of fun. They give lectures. They bring in a variety of people. This is a cool event that any of you can go to, and it's a lot of fun. So I wanted to also say a couple more things real quick about John Quincy Adams, and then we'll be off to another state here in a second. In 1825, John Quincy Adams had been in Europe and done a lot of travel, and they had at the time 130 astronomical observatories, but we really didn't have any in the United States. And so he really tried to make and build a case to try to cultivate the astronomy culture in this country deepen, because he thought that would lead to science and innovation. And at the time when he came back, during that period, I should say, he had been the president of Harvard University as well. So he spent time with actually the Tsar of Russia, Alexander I, who was another amateur astronomer in 1809 and actually studied under him. So a little bit of American history you may not have known. And he was really the proponent that really helped get the dedication of the Cincinnati Observatory in 1843. So again, kind of a fun thing, and it's the original site was called Mount Adams. Okay. Oh, we got a new state. Oh my goodness. What state might this one be? Well, we're off to Arizona, everybody, okay? I go part 1 of 3. And in all seriousness, I could probably do part 1 of 13. I have a lot of content on Arizona, but I'm not going to kill you off tonight. So we're just going to have some fun on Arizona. And so when I talk about Arizona, we got to go over some key points. And for me, it's Starizona, 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 and more Starizona. Well, there are actually some other astronomy stores in that place. I am not a paid spokesman for Starizona. Some people think that I am, but I'm kind of a fan of theirs. And so I'll tell you why I am, and it's because of this. So are you ever feeling like you want the desire to maybe buy discounted equipment from a discount astronomy dealer? Well, I have a little picture on the screen which I think kind of maybe will remind you of something. It's the barber shop joke, and so what you see here is think in your mind, picture a barber who charges $20 for a haircut, and someone across the street opens and they've got that sign, the $5 haircut. And so the $20 barber, oh my goodness, this is bad news for that barber. He turns to his friend and he says, what am I going to do? How am I going to survive? The guy across the street's charging $5. Well, the friend, without skipping a beat, says, this is easy. We're going to put a sign in our window, and the sign's going to read, we fix $5 haircut. So I think it's a great story, and it's about, I might be able to help you fix some of those vendors that you have troubles with, because here's what I'll tell you about this store. If you're in Arizona, I always encourage it. Truly, I'm not on their payroll, but Starizona, my wife calls them my crack dealer because she thinks my paycheck gets deposited with them. But Dean Koenig, his wife Donna, you're seeing Scott Tucker on the far left, his son Steve. They are the top telescope people in America, I believe. I will tell you something. My company is headquartered in Los Angeles, not too far from Celestron's headquarters, which I've gone into before. And I know this to be true. If you send a product to Celestron and they cannot fix it, a telescope, where do they send it for repair? They send it to Starizona. Not an exaggeration. And the optical equipment that they use, Starizona hires people from the Stewart Mirror Lab, University of Arizona. Very interesting little story. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about is a new portion of Arizona in particular. So I'm going to focus and hone in on a certain spot. And that spot is Flagstaff, okay? This is a great city. If you're into astronomy, you need to visit this place. Flagstaff is a lot of fun. And so here's what some of the key points on Flagstaff that we're going to talk about. City light and citywide light ordinances. Literally, you can see the Milky Way from Flagstaff. It's remarkable, okay? Light ordinances work, all right? We all can take a breather when some relief, or give ourselves a pat in the back that there were some people who really were clever about having well-designed lighting in Flagstaff and what the benefits it's brought about. But the big thing there, of course, is the Lowell Observatory, and we're going to hit upon some of the key things about it and some of the very recent additions they've done and a major expansion that they have currently underway right now. We're also going to talk about the U.S. Naval Observatory, which is there, and Meteor Crater as well. So we're going to keep going. So I like to say I got my kicks on Route 66. I've been to this facility, fortunately, a number of times over the years. The last time was probably 2, maybe 3 years ago. I actually went there, my wife, the whole family, we did a spring break there. And that was a picture of the sign. So it's kind of fun to see Route 66 and the Lowell Observatory all in the same spot. And that is an actual sign you could see in Flagstaff. Some things I'll say about the Lowell Observatory. It was founded in 1894 by Percival Lowell. That's where the name comes from. He established the observatory because he wanted to search for evidence of Mars. And I know some of you probably know a little bit of the history about it. But I also want when I speak to a group of your size, I know there's people of varying backgrounds. Some of you are probably brand new to this hobby, but a name that you will become more familiar with if you stick with the hobby is Clyde Tombaugh. In February 18th, the day after my birthday, he discovered Pluto. He did that back in 1930, and he did an extensive survey of it. And Clyde Tombaugh used a device called the Zeiss Blink comparator, which they sometimes have on site there, or sometimes it's in the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. So it travels back and forth. The Lowell astronomers have discovered a number of things from Flagstaff. They were the first to discover evidence of an expanding universe. There was an astronomer by the name of V.M. Slifer. He revolutionized our entire understanding of space and observations and the expanding nature of our universe. He made fundamental discoveries using the Clark telescope, which you're going to see here in just a moment, and he did a lot of work with spectrographs. And other big accomplishments from Lowell come out in 1977. Lowell astronomers were the first to realize that Uranus actually has rings around it. Pretty interesting, and that was confirmed by Voyager flybys. In 2012, they received first light for the Discovery Channel telescope at Happy Jack, which is a really cool facility for you to visit at some point. And in 2015, the New Horizons spacecraft was the first to ever go to Pluto and do close examination of it. And who did NASA have as their chief principal investigator in that project? A Lowell astronomer. So astronomy is alive and well at Lowell, everyone. Here's where this gets fun for us, okay? This beautiful 24-inch Alvin and Clark refractor. And, I've mentioned the word Alvin and Clark before when we talked about the state of Ohio, right? It's the Cincinnati Observatory. These were the folks. Alvin and Clark and Sons were kind of a father-son team from Cambridgeport, Massachusetts, and they built this beautiful state-of-the-art 24-inch refractor. And it is stunning. And you can go and look through the eyepiece. This is open to the public. This is a fun thing to do. And Percival Lowell had this constructed because he was looking for intelligent life on Mars. He thought he was seeing canals, and he wasn't. But it inspired a lot of science fiction. H.G. Wells did a lot of his science writing because he was inspired by some of the writings that Percival Lowell had done. Kind of interesting stuff. Also, during the Apollo mission, a lot of the moon sketches, they were done using this telescope and photography and things that they used to help our Apollo astronauts during training. Another thing which was kind of interesting. Oh, something else I want to point out about this. If you look at the bottom left-hand corner of the guy at the eyepiece, right over his shoulder, you see these tire wheels. They're still in place today, even though just about 4 or 5 years ago, they did a complete revamp of this telescope and they stripped it down and put it back together, and it looks brand spanking new. They're using old tires to rotate the dome, which I think is kind of unique. There's a nighttime photo of people waiting to use the telescope because, like I said, if you show up, you get to go there. Now, I want to say, look what I found along the path. So I'm at the observatory, and I'm walking along. I did the daytime tour with my family, and I see this monument. Well, what the heck is it? It's a monument to Robert Burnham Jr. And so some of you who maybe are visual astronomers like me are familiar with Burnham's Celestial Handbook. His writings are unbelievable, how this guy could bring to life objects and see detail and descriptions of them. And some of the cosmology and the thoughts from the 70s when he wrote those books have obviously changed, but not his detail around double stars and carbon stars and the way they look. So anyway, this is kind of fun that he had been a staff astronomer at Lowell. Not an astronomer. He was been on staff with them doing other activities is probably a better way to put it. But they have a little monument for him. So I would just let you know this isn't anywhere in the brochures that I've ever found, but I happened to stumble across this. I can tell you where if you're interested. But if you're interested in Burnham's Celestial Handbook, I thought I should mention that's at the Lowell Observatory as well. Okay, we're going to keep rolling here, gang. So as I mentioned, Pluto was discovered there by Clyde Tombaugh. This is the actual telescope. They were looking for what they thought was Planet X, or the 9th planet. And they used it. This is actually what we'd only call an astrograph. So for those of you new to astronomy, it means there's not an eyepiece designed just to take pictures. And then again, they use that Zeiss blink comparator that I talked about to determine that they have discovered a new object. So there's other fun telescopes there. So you can go there and at nighttime. So during the daytime, they have all kinds of programming and talks that you can see. You can do daytime tours, but at night, they open up the facility for telescopes. And I'll tell you about that. It really has just opened. I mean, like as in the last 10 days or so, they've now gone to phase 2. So small groups can actually go and look at the telescope. So I thought I'd share that with all of you. Anyway, the Lowell Observatory, they have the Dyer Telescope Dome. They have a 24-inch plane wave, which is a CDK, Dahl-Kirkham telescope. And I want to make a comment about this, because I know I'm not the only visual observer out here, and I know I have a number of folks who are imagers. And I want to make a comment. Although I'm strictly a visual guy, a lot of the friends in my club, in fact, my best friend, is an imager. So I get along with the other half of the club, I guess is what I want to say. But for the visual people, don't underestimate what a telescope like this can do with an eyepiece at the back of it. Although it has a big central obstruction, the views are surprisingly good. I've had a chance to look through a number of these with eyepieces at the back, and I have been blown away. So that's the dome at nighttime. That's what it looks like, and you can go and look. And the nice thing about that type of design, you don't have to climb up a tall ladder to get to the eyepiece. That is the old telescope they had. That they called that the McAllister, a 16-inch, and it's on a Bowlers and Chivens reflector. That originally had come from Notre Dame University, and it's no longer there. They upgraded to that 24-inch. Okay, so there's a big expansion underway there. And so on the left-hand side, you see at nighttime they set up all kinds of little telescopes on their patios, but they're building this big astronomy discovery center. What I want you to know, though, is much of the expansion is already done. They got this completed a couple of years ago, called the Giovanni Open Deck Observatory, and then, a year and a half ago, COVID hit, and it kind of put things on hold a little bit. But they call it the GODO, which is the Giovanni Open Deck Observatory. What I show you in the center of the screen there is basically like a folding garage door that goes up, and then the entire structure just pushes back on rails. And then what's underneath it? What's underneath it is all of those beautiful telescopes that you see there. And the exterior looks kind of like a futuristic garage to me, but in the middle, in the very back of it, they also have a classroom. I should point that out as well. And they've got some just really nice, pretty equipment. I'll show you just a couple of these. They have a 32-inch star structure Dobsonian. It's got a Lockwood mirror on it, really fast, f.3. And they have you have the opportunity to look through that. So it's kind of fun to be able to look through a big telescope like that under really dark skies, which you wouldn't think you would find in the middle of a city, but you do in Flagstaff. And so I wanted to point that out to you. Show a couple more here real quick. This is Telescope Engineering Company. They got a refractor, which is really pretty to look at planets with. They also have, these are in addition to the big scopes. Then they also have this one, which is kind of cool, kind of a Victorian refractor. It's an 8-inch moonraker, just letting you know. And then they have a 16-inch SCT. They put an eyepiece in the back of that, another one. My point is they have a whole lot of stuff. Now, here's what's coming up. They have got underway at this site construction, and they're building a huge, what they call Discovery Center. Their goal, and I've talked to some of their folks, they want to be the premier astronomy destination in America. So if you're into astronomy, you have got to go see this place, everyone. And they're really trying to leverage the dark skies. It's going to be a 35,000 square foot facility. On the roof, okay, on the very top, they're going to have what they call the Dark Sky Planetarium. And that's going to be really cool. So it's going to be an open air planetarium with seats, heated seats that you can sit in. And then they'll do guided green laser pointer tours. And so that's what they're calling their Dark Sky Planetarium. In addition, they're going to have a universe theater with IMAX planetarium type shows. And I think this is all pretty cool. So I'm a big fan of the Lowell Observatory. They have, if you're into meteorites, they have some amazing meteorites in there. This is what they call the Verkamp meteorite from nearby, place that I'm going to take you to next. And this was Canyon Diablo near Meteor Crater is where that came from. So the next thing I have is Meteor Crater. This is all this is still in Flagstaff, gang. In Meteor Crater is the world's best preserved meteor impact crater site. You have one in Texas as well. I know probably a number of you probably know that out in West Texas near the oil patch, but this one's probably the best preserved. And that's what it looks like from an aerial photo. And they have a little visitor center there. Scientists refer to it as the Behringer Crater in honor of Daniel Behringer, who first suggested that maybe this hole was actually an impact from a meteorite. It's located just 18 miles west of Winslow, Arizona, and it attracts over 250,000 visitors a year, which is pretty interesting. The meteor crater is 3.25 inches, three-quarters of a mile wide, which is kind of hard to believe, right? 560 feet. But if you're there, you kind of get a sense of it. This is an artist rendering showing what the pyramids would look like if they were inside the darn thing. This shows you how big this thing is. And they thought, the physicists have estimated it would be like a 10 megaton explosion of an atomic bomb to create that type of a hole. Anyway, but if you're up that way, you need to do it. Now, the other thing that's up there is the U.S. Naval Observatory, okay? And so what I'll say to you about this is the U.S. Naval Observatory it is one of the oldest scientific agencies in the United States. Do any of you know why we have a naval observatory? this is kind of interesting, and the answer to it is its primary mission is to produce positioning, navigation, and timing information for our U.S. military for our missiles and our targets and stuff. If somehow our enemies take down our GPS system, they're using visual and other types of astronomy to be able to locate exact targets that they could feed into our missiles. Kind of an interesting thing. So it's all housed by the U.S. Defense. Well, anyway, I wanted to go see it the last time I was there. The thing I will point out to you is this gets confusing. So there's the U.S. Naval Observatory in Flagstaff, and then to the right is the U.S. Naval Observatory in Washington, D.C. It was originally there in Washington, D.C. There's still an observatory there, and it also serves as the home for the Vice President of the United States. But in 1955, they moved it out of D.C. to the dark skies of Flagstaff, to Flagstaff, Arizona, and it's under the Navy's operation. And they've got a 61-inch telescope, and there's a picture of the dome right there. But there's a sign, U.S. Naval Observatory. It's not on the map, but I knew people who told me how to get there. So anyway, it was nighttime, and I thought my daughter might come with me, and she didn't. And so it was just me by myself in my rental car, and I'm going there, and you know, I'm passing all these signs that say you probably shouldn't be there. And then I got to this sign. This sign read restricted. Now, there was barbed wire, mind you, and I thought, now, do I want to scale the fence to see that telescope that bad? And then I read the very bottom. It said, use of deadly force is authorized. This is United States National Security Site. I thought, you know, I don't think that would be a fun thing to do. I've gone this far in my life without ever being arrested. I don't think I want to risk anything, nor do I want to be shot. So, plus, I think my wife would kind of be mad at me. So anyway, my point, I'm going to get there sometime. That's one of my goals, and I have a full plan as to how I'll actually be able to get there and not do it in a nefarious way, because I'm kind of straight and narrow guy anyway. But anyway, I thought you find that interesting that it is right there in Flagstaff. Okay. We're on the move, gang. Oh, man, a new state. Where are we off to? What state is this? The great state of Iowa. That's it. So I got a question for all of you. My question is, which famous science pioneer comes from Iowa? Anybody know? Which famous science pioneer? The answer is Captain Kirk. Come on, you guys. No, I'm from Iowa. He only works in outer space. I thought you might like that joke, but maybe not. So here are some of the key points on Iowa. They've got a lot of astronomy things happening there. Science Center of Iowa, Ashton Wildwood Observatory, which is tied into the Des Moines Astronomy Club, Drake University, my alma mater, and Eastern Iowa Observatory. It's only those two that I'm going to focus on. I'll hit upon the Drake one just for a moment, simply because it's near and dear to my heart. I'm married to my college sweetheart. We met at Drake. We didn't meet through astronomy, but while I was a student there, I did take an astronomy class, and it kind of helped perpetuate my interest in astronomy, which began prior to then. As a teenager, I built myself a refractor, and then kind of got re-engaged in college. So it's been kind of a lot of fun for me. And there's a picture of the dome. In the early 90s, we had a lot of these orange tube celestrons, and that's what they had us using. And this is located in the middle of a golf course in Des Moines, Iowa, where Drake University is. But it's kind of a fun thing. And you can go there in Des Moines and go to their public lectures and look through their telescopes. And they've got kind of a classy old one here. So this is the 8.5-inch Warner and Swayze refractor that has stunning views of the moon. And this was all redone about 10 years ago. The optics are produced by John Brashear and Company out of Allegheny, Pennsylvania. And the lens was by Dr. Charles Hastings from Yale. It was built in 1893. So some of these old telescopes are pretty cool. But what I want to really focus on for your club and talk to you about this is the Eastern Iowa Observatory and Learning Center. So here's what you need to know. There's a picture of this thing. Look at the size of this structure, gang. What I want you to know is it's run by the Eastern Iowa Astronomy Club in conjunction with Lynn County, the county where this is housed. It's also known as the Palisades Dalles Preserve Observatory. But Eastern Iowa Observatory, you can learn about it. Why I want to let you know about this is these folks were really clever. They went and talked to the board of supervisors for the county, and they got the county and convinced them to build this structure for them. So it can be done. I have plenty of other examples around the country that can inspire your club, and I would love to learn more about your club, actually. So I want to let you know that this is pretty interesting. Now, this was completed in 2008, and a couple things. Those are observing pads you see, and those little things that look almost like music stands for musical performers are a place for you to put your laptop, which is kind of interesting. So they swivel and they stick, and I thought that was really innovative. I've not seen that anywhere else. You see they got 3 major domes. They got a huge roll-off roof. There's the roll-off roof to the right. There's another picture of it before it was painted, obviously. That whole structure behind it They got the county to build them that. That's a giant meeting room for them. They've got computer spaces in there, a full kitchen so they can have parties and cook, do cookouts for the public, and the entire basement, a finished basement as well with the library down there. It's pretty cool. You can all visit this place, okay? Near Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And then inside there, they've got a 16-inch SVT. They've got a 14-inch Celestron. They got another one of these 24-inch. Oh, that's a 24-inch Bowlers and Chivens classical Cassegrain that was donated through the astronomy department. James Van Allen from the famous Van Allen radiation belts was a member of this club. So another example of a professional astronomer who's also an amateur astronomer. Anyway, that's a picture. The last thing I want to make, well, two comments on this. Bottom right-hand picture, I want you to look at something there. Do you see the almost terraced seating they have, these big stone seats? They got the county to do that for them, and now they can do open-air planetarium shows, kind of like what Lowell's up to. So you got people sitting there, and then you take your green laser pointer. It's a much easier way to tell the public what's up in the sky and show things out, and it's a lot more comfortable for them. So kind of an interesting thing. I actually would like our club to do it here in Minnesota as well. And the last comment I'm going to make is they have a nice big earth berm that's just outside of the field of view of the picture in the bottom right. So when traffic comes and goes, it doesn't cast lights from the headlights onto the observing field. Pretty cool site. Again, Eastern Iowa, Cedar Rapids. Any of you can go there. All right. Oh, yeah, there you go. I put a little arrow to let you point out, again, where the seating is for their open-air planetarium. Pretty cool, pretty cool. All right. Oh, we're off to a new state. Okay, what state is this, everyone? Anybody know? Take a guess. There's the answer, West Virginia, okay? So West Virginia is the state that we are going to talk about. What's going on in West Virginia? Some key points. The Green Bank Star Quest Star Party. It's hosted by the Central Appalachian Astronomy Club. And I'll share a couple of things with you about this. So the Traveling Astronomer, me, I had been to 49 out of the 50 states. The last state that I hadn't gotten to until I visited this place was West Virginia. So I had to go to a star party, right, if I'm hitting my last state. So one of the shared goals my wife and I had was to get our kids to all 50 states before they got off to college, and we were able to accomplish that. It took a lot of planning and preparation, but any of you can do that with your children or grandchildren, or do it yourself. And you can talk to me about strategies, but you can do astronomy in every state. It's not that hard, everyone. Now, Green Bank Star Party, I don't know if some of you have been there or not, but it's the world's largest steerable radio telescope. They can move that big rascal thing around. Now, my daughter came with me. My daughter has been, in the past, somewhat interested in, somewhat active, I guess is a better way of putting it, in amateur astronomy. She even has her own telescope. And I got to tell you what I didn't anticipate, everyone, and this is all on Dad, not on my daughter. This thing is kind of an interesting place. It's we were driving in the middle of nowhere, West Virginia, and my daughter was complaining to me. She's like, "Oh, well, Dad, there's no cell phone coverage." Now, a teenage girl without access to a cell phone, that's equivalent to a raging, hungry animal who hasn't been fed in a week. She was grouchy, to say the least. And I said, "Hey, Rachel, don't worry about it. We're in the mountains. As soon as we get to the flat observing field, I'm sure we'll have a cell phone signal." What I didn't connect the dots on, and I should have, because I'm the traveling astronomer, that it's actually a national quiet zone. What does that mean? Well, that means I think it's an insane number, like 100-mile radius of this field, there are no cell phone towers because they can't have cell phone interference with the radio astronomy that they're doing. And so it's a National Science Foundation building. I didn't know that. My daughter wanted me dead. It's probably a miracle that I'm actually speaking to you guys today. But it was kind of fun. I was able to talk somebody in to let my daughter steer the dish around. It was a lot of fun, and they have a really fun star party at night. Comment I'm going to make to all of you if you go to this thing. Right in the smack dab in the center of the screen is where they're doing the research, and I've got another picture to the right of it just from another angle. Those turkeys, those astronomers, they didn't shut any of their lights out. I mean, so the light pollution was horrific, and you would think with this big national star party going on, they would at least have the courtesy of shutting their blinds. They did not. And I just thought I would share that with you. But anyway, it's kind of a cool site. If you've never been to West Virginia, this is a good chance for you to get it, participate in astronomy. You'll get a big group photo taken when you're done. Kind of a fun thing. All right. Oh, we're off to another state. Which state is this? I bet you know this one. This is an easy one to give away. Florida. Okay. There's a lot going on in the great state of Florida. Let's see, what do I want to talk about tonight? Oh, the South Florida Bishop Planetarium. This is one that a lot of folks don't know about, but one I would encourage you to visit if you're down in the kind of the Tampa, Bradenton area. We'll talk about that. The Miami Space Transit Planetarium, a name that some of you will know. We'll talk about that because the late Jack Horkheimer, who had the television show Star Hustler, that was his home base. And then they built since then a new $275 million Miami Museum of Science, which opened here just a few years ago. So it's formally called, as you look at this, the Phillips Fisher Frost Museum of Science is now the full name because they got a donor in it, but it's really state of the art, a lot of fun. But I got to tell you something. You guys need to hear something, and I'm going to tell you why I'm doing this in just a second. So stick with me here as I'm going to play music for you. That music and that guy on the screen there, Jack Horkheimer, is the one that got me into astronomy. So I grew up in a small town in Iowa, and we still had dark skies behind our backyard. We backed up to a cornfield. I wasn't on a farm, but by development backed up to a cornfield, and so I still had dark skies. And back in the day, right, we before the television stations would go off the air, they'd play the national anthem. But before then, on the PBS station that I had, they had this little show called The Star Hustler with Jack Horkheimer, and they would play that music, that kind of space age music, and then he would give a talk about the night sky, and that's what really got me started in astronomy. I've mentioned this to several times I've spoken, and I'm surprised how many other people have gotten into the hobby because of that show, which is no longer on the air, and Jack Horkheimer, sadly, is no longer alive. But I will say this. That show was syndicated, and he, when he died, created a foundation to encourage astronomy. And so I want to tell you something about my daughter, okay? There's a picture of her in the bottom right-hand corner. This is from four years ago now, and she would die if she knew I was showing you this picture because, she didn't have contacts then, and, all these, anyway, you know how teenage girls can be self-conscientious. My beautiful teenage daughter, and that's her 6-inch scope she has, she won a Horkheimer Award. So he gives out awards, and she wrote an article about the aurora, and it was kind of a fun little thing. So it's almost like astronomy went full circle, and that Jack Horkheimer had a connection to us, and so I share that with you guys. Okay. The other thing I want to point out is this the Bishop Planetarium. So this is the one that I mentioned that's kind of in the Bradenton area, and it's really pretty. They have they have a variety of things in it, but one of which is they have a really, really old meteorite in there that they call the Finney one, and it's named after the periodic table elements of iron and nickel, so that's where the Fe and Ni come from. Their astronomy observatory director, Howard Hackhalter, he named his children after stars. So, I mean, he was really committed. I certainly didn't do that. But he and his wife met at that planetarium on a first date, so, kind of a fun little thing, and it's a beautiful facility, and there's that big meteorite that little boy is holding there on the screen. Okay. Oh, we're off to another state. Oh, my goodness. Which state is this? Anybody know what state that is? Missouri, the show me state. So there's astronomy, some pretty cool things to do in Missouri, which you might not think about. I'm going to point out a few things here. The Astro League's headquarters is there. Okay, I've actually been to it. It's in the basement of a building. I might describe it more as a glorified closet, but your dues do support an Astro League headquarters. I verified it, and they do have a couple people in there, I think, part-time. Anyway, I thought I would mention that. The University of Missouri, Kansas City, the Kangaroos is their mascot. They do a lot of fun rooftop observing if you're ever in Kansas City. And the one I want to touch upon, though, is something most folks don't know about, and this is cool. It's called the Linda Hall Library of Science, Engineering, and Technology in Kansas City. So let's find out, what the heck is that? The Linda Hall Library of Science. There's a picture of this thing, and it is enormous, everyone. This is a private library. It's the largest independently funded library of science in the entire North America. And it's among one of the largest science observatories in the world. So there's a picture from street level. There's the inside of it. There's a couple different levels. And it's got catacombs upon catacombs. I was really fortunate to have the director give me a pretty extensive tour, and it was really a neat experience for me. In its majestic setting in Kansas City, it sits on a 14-acre lot right next to the University of Missouri Kansas City campus, the Kangaroos that I just mentioned. But this library, if you let them know you're a member of the Astro League, which I'm sure all of you are, they will roll out the red carpet. I was really flattered and touched by what happened. But why you want to go? Oh, there's a picture of me in the bottom right-hand corner. It looks like I'm wearing my what shirt is that? Oh, the Yerkes Observatory shirt. Yeah. So Yerkes, boy, that'd be a whole other talk for another day. But Carol Orge, he's the past president, maybe the president now again at the Astro League. I forget who our leadership is. That's a picture of him next. Again, I'm 6'2". But behind us, what I want to point out is behind us. Okay. They have a really distinguished collection of books. They have some of the original writings of Tycho Brahe from 1632. Some of the oldest books in the collection date back to the 15th century. Okay, first editions, gang. Now think about what I just said. Okay, the 15th century. Keep in mind, Gutenberg invented the printing press in what year? 1440. This is amazing. So it's a library with a staff of over 40 different professional librarians. It's all privately funded by the Linda Hall Foundation. And I mean, this is just more pictures of the books that you have access to. So they won't let you just grab a book. You have to wash your hands. You go through a whole protocol training as to how to preserve the books. There's an example of these little ropes. If you look in the right-hand corner, each page, to prevent it from flopping back, you have to lay a leaded rope in there to really do your best to preserve the. I'd never been through an experience like that. It was amazing, and these librarians were really, really fun. They're all paid through the endowment of this family that really benefited from it. David Levy, somebody who I'm going to reference toward the conclusion of my talk, his entire observing logs, he donated them to the Linda Hall Library for preservation. And so you can go in there and actually read and study that. They have lots of original. Those are some of Levy's manuscripts in the bottom right hand, some of his observing notes. So I tell you, Kansas City is no longer just for barbecue, although they got darn good barbecue there. The great comet hunter David Levy has his material there. So kind of one that's a little unique, but kind of a lot of fun. All right, let's keep moving. Okay, where are we up to now? Oh, Kansas. All right, so let's talk about Kansas. I think for the sake of speed, I'm going to speed up. We might not hit all of these. Let's see. I'm going to try to keep it if I still have an hour, and I probably have about another 10, 15 minutes. Is that fair? I want to make sure I do a time check because they told me I have about an hour to present, and I started about 20. Thumbs up. All right, I'll keep going. Here we go. So some key points on Kansas that I want to tell you about. The Banner Creek Observatory and Science Center, the Lake Afton Observatory. There's even a vendor there too, but let's hit upon some of the structures. Holton, Kansas. This is in kind of about an hour and a half from Kansas City. You're going to run into this place called the Banner Creek Observatory, and it's a lot of fun. They have some amazing equipment and a structure that's all been completed. So what I will tell you is they've got a parking lot where they set up all of these large SDTs that they have on scope buggies. But really, that man in the far bottom right-hand corner, his name's Mike Ford. He's a retired high school teacher, and he's the kind of the lead guru on this site. They upgraded. They went from a 20-inch RC optical system scope to this beautiful 24-inch plane wave that they put an eyepiece on the back, but they also put CDKs on the back. You can come visit there, and they'll let you do imaging if you're an imager. If you're a visual guy like me, they'll let you do that too. So the whole project was paid for by a federal grant because it's adjacent to an Indian reservation. And so the way they structured this, the mission was to provide scientific education to the Native American culture as well as to some natural ecosystem. Well, what he found was he invited the tribe over to look through the stuff, and they had zero interest in astronomy, and they've never been back. But he got his observatory built. And so my point is there's a lot of grant money out there if you want to go looking for it. It's pretty interesting. Now, the other one I want to talk about is down in Wichita. Lake Afton, so the Wichita Astronomy Club, they're called the Kansas Astronomical Observers. They took over this observatory, which used to be Wichita State University's observatory, and it's surprisingly in really dark sky. It's only about 30 minutes outside the town. And they've got a wonderful building that the county maintains. So Lake Afton Public Observatory, it's got this nice 16-inch reflector that you see there. I guess that looks like maybe a Ritchie Crean. I don't know, but they do put eyepieces at the back of it. But inside the building, they've got all these science exhibits. And one of the things in the bottom right-hand corner I want to point out to you is those Windows computers you see, they got them for dirt cheap because just like your club, you remember at the very beginning, Michelle said that you're a nonprofit, so are they. And if you go and approach Microsoft in the correct way, you can get all kinds of fun stuff donated to your nonprofit. So they were able to get all that equipment for the public just by asking the right way. All right, we're on the move here. Oh my gosh, we're off to Minnesota. Okay, we're getting toward the end of my talk. I can't speak without talking about the home club here a little bit. So we're off to Minnesota, God's country. Well, maybe not. You'll see why. So we're going to talk about some of the key comments about my club. It's one of the biggest in the nation. We have 600, and I think we're up to 620 members now. It's really big, and so we're really fortunate. We're fortunate to have 4 observatories and 5 if you count an observing field. We hosted Alcon back in 2008, and every year the club hosts Camping with the Stars and the Northern Nights Star Fest, which I want to tell you about. So I want to do something with you, and what I'm going to do is say, hey, I want to show you something. First, it's movie time. So we're going to do a movie. This is going to be about 4 minutes long. Just want to show you something. And do you see, so I'm looking at you, I can see on the screen. Give me a thumbs up if you see in the top left of my screen where it says QuickTime Player. Or do you see my PowerPoint? Thumbs up, beautiful. All right, here we go.
And I'm a member of the Minnesota Astronomical Society.
My name is Dave Barber, president of the Minnesota Astronomical Society, and this is the Eagle Lake Observatory.
Very large club. We have a lot of membership, and this is our flagship site.
This place is called Eagle Lake Observatory. It's located in the Baylor Regional Park in Carver County, about 3 miles north of Norway, America. It consists of 2 observatories, the Onan Observatory and the Sylvia A. Casby Observatory, and the hotspot classroom, which we use for presentations as well as a warming house when the weather gets cold.
Why I keep coming back out here to the Eagle Lake Observatories is because of the public outreach. We're introducing new people to this every time.
We invite the public to come out, and we have a number of telescopes here that we use to look at objects in the sky, such as planets, the moon, nebula, galaxies, things that people wouldn't normally be able to see. And we also explain about the objects, what they are, what they're looking at, how far away are they, how many stars are in the cluster.
Not only is it a wow, that's cool, but I don't really know what I'm looking at. Wow, it's cool. And now I know what I'm looking at because someone was coaching me.
So one of the rigs that we have in the Onan Observatory is what we call our imaging rig. So the telescopes on that rig actually have cameras attached to them. And we're able to take live images from those cameras, display them on monitors in the Onan Observatory, and then we also have a video feed over to the classroom so that you can actually look at live video in the classroom of what that telescope is looking at. And it's really quite spectacular. Technically, it's called the MAS Public Observing Range, but we call it the Star Parties. We have a lot of fun. We enjoy looking at stars. Public star parties generally run from March through November. The public nights are rain or shine, and we plan something back up in case we can't look through the telescopes. What's the average time of galaxy?
This was built and optimized to be a public outreach site. Really a great advantage to the Twin Cities community.
About 3,000 people come through here each year. We've had a total of 37,000 people who have come out.
You see the kids out there, they get really excited. You explain things to them in their terms, and their eyes get big, and they're like, wow, I didn't know you could do this. That's the way I was when I was a little kid. That's how I got interested.
So far, we've already seen Saturn, and what else?
A dwarf.
A white dwarf. Yep. Nebula. Mars.
And then Saturn.
Yeah, star clusters.
Saturn is galaxy we see. So there's tiny little white dots. The black hole in the middle.
There might be a little planet in the center there. Do you think you have any rings around it?
Cool.
So the Minnesota Astronomical Society was formed in 1980. Prior to that, it was the Twin Cities Astronomy Club. Started out with just Metcalf Field in the Eastern Metro and expanded over the years to include 4 other sites. This site, which is our flagship location where we do our public observing nights, Metcalf Field, along with Casby Observatory in Afton. And we have a site south of Cannon Falls, about 20 miles, called Cherry Grove. And then our Dark Sky site, because there's no light pollution, is about 2.5 hours north of the Twin Cities at Long Lake Conservation Center near McGregor, Minnesota.
There are teaching programs that the club has and lots of activities that help people who just want to learn but need someone to help them out. I'm at a point now where I'm actually doing some of the teaching, which is pretty fun.
I believe we have one of the premier amateur astronomy clubs in the nation, particularly for having the number of sites that we have for our members and having the equipment that we have. For me, it's the adventure of going out and finding an object in the sky, learning about the object, following the space missions that we have to the planets and beyond.
The first time I tried to run a telescope for myself, and I had no idea how to point it and how to focus it. Someone told me that bright spot was Saturn, and I managed to get the telescope on Saturn and focused it, and I looked through and went, wow.
We hope that we're making an impact, that we're actually inspiring young people to look at science and technology as a way for them for the future.
Okay, thanks for indulging me and letting me do that. I wanted, like I said, more than anything, just to be able to show you that video, because sometimes they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I think the Chinese are definitely right about that, because when I can show that video, it allows me to be able to really, I think, allow a number of people to kind of get a sense for what's going on in our club. I would love to tell you that I had something to do with that video. I didn't. I had absolutely nothing to do with it. And we were able to get that video made at no cost. The kid that was working on an Eagle Scout project did it for our club. It's remarkable. So lots of ways to be creative, everyone. Lots of ways to be creative. All right. So real quick, I'm just going to mention a couple of these sites. So this is our flagship observatory site. And if you ever come to Minnesota, I can arrange for you to visit and play and use these sites, and all are welcome. All are welcome. So I would, I can arrange, if I'm out of town, which I am, sometimes I got enough people, I can take care of anyone, any and all are welcome. And I really do mean that. So in this observatory here, this is, boy, we got some fun toys. We got a 8-inch TMB scope, 12-inch, 300 Takahashi Mulan, all these things you could get access to, okay? That's our roll-off roof observatory. There's also 20-inch Obsession, a 16-inch LX200. It goes on and on and on. And so, but this site is where we have this thing called Camping with the Stars. So if you ever wanted to come and pitch tent, which some people do, that's going to be August 14th to the 16th in Minnesota, and you would be welcome. Near where I live on my side of town, about 10 minutes from my house, is this structure we have called the Casby Observatory. It houses beautiful 16-foot ash dome, I should say, and it's a 10-inch TMB. On an El Capitan mount from astrophysics, and we also have a Lunt scope on it, as well as another. We have a stellar view. I guess this is a 120 on there too. Okay, this is the main site that I get involved with. This is Cherry Grove Observatory, one of our darker sites south of town. It's got a roll-off roof observatory, as you see there, in a nice big observing field. The big knob you see sticking out on the side of the building there, and also a picture of it at the bottom left, is a 24-inch Starmaster. We call it the BAD, the big aperture knob. It's got a Pegasus mirror by the late John Hall with the Strill ratio of 0.97. So anyway, a lot of fun. Anybody can get access to it. We also have, if you look at the bottom right, a couple things. We got an imaging rig, and this is something I really push for. Although I'm a visual guy, I wanted to take care of my imaging guys. So we're able to get an imaging rig set up there, and we put on there a Takahashi FSQ 130 and a Planewave 12.5 CDK that any of our members can use. It's got a nice camera on the back of it. The right is the 16-inch SBT. It's a pure visual structure. And let me tell you, the optics in that particular 16-inch SBT are insane. I was able to see Sirius B with that scope. And that might seem like easy for you to do down there, but the skies and scene conditions aren't always the best. And so there are very few members of my club who've seen Sirius B. I did it. It was in January a couple of years ago. It was unbelievably cold, but I had 3 witnesses, so I'm glad to prove it to other people. Anyway, let's see. Let me tell you a couple more things here. The other thing I would say is one of the annual traditions that you could come to, it'll be September 1st to the 6th. We're doing it again this year. It's called our Northern Nights Starfest. And for the last several years, it's at our club's darkest site, about 2.5 hours north of Minneapolis, St. Paul. You all would be welcome. You get to stay in at the Long Lake Conservation Center. We have dormitory structures, so it's bunk bed set up, so you could spend the night there. You have access to some really pretty nature places, and there's a dining hall where they serve food to you. They also have those 2 Dobbs, those big ones you see there, the 25 and 30-inch sessions any of you can use. I really believe in July and August, there's not a better place to be than Minnesota. Unfortunately, the other 10 months of the year, there's troubles with that. We hosted AlCon a few years back. I know some of you came, so I'm going to move on from that. But what I want to say about the club, and I'm getting towards the end, just a few more minutes, and then I'm wrapping it up because I want to honor your time and commitments. This is a quote from a member of my club. What makes this club, and I believe your club too, what little I know about you, is that that you have some people who love to observe. I'm one of them. And then there's other people who don't observe at all, and that's okay. Some of you love to take pictures, as I mentioned earlier. Some just love to gab. They just like to talk things through. Some love the hardware. I mean, some people are equipment gurus. Some love the software. And some just love the history. I think it's that rich tapestry. That's a direct quote from one of the members, and I wanted to steal it because I think that's what makes astronomy fun. And so I've said before, I think we've got one of the greatest hobbies, and so I'll mention a couple of my 2 cents worth. So nobody put me up to this. I'm doing this off script, but here we go. My recommendation to astronomy clubs: pursue international dark sky preserve status for your sites. If you can get that, then everybody around there in the communities nearby, they understand what you're trying to do, and it becomes easier to fight light pollution. You might even get, if you're in a county structure or in any type of public entity, if you can get them on board, it helps. Outreach targeting star parties. I know several people in the Houston Astronomical Society, they do a really good job of going after and targeting apartment complexes. A lot of times the bigger apartment complexes have a courtyard. You can even talk to the managers and maybe we'll do barbecues, and it can be a lot of fun. Don't hold meetings on Friday nights. Well, you guys can check that box. Most astronomy clubs hold them on Friday nights, and that cuts into the nights that people want to be out observing, and it impacts membership. The other one, obtain community foundations. A lot of people don't understand how community foundations work. I would be happy to talk to you guys about that, but you're not begging. To maintain their tax-exempt status, these foundations have to give away 4% of their 5%. I took that back. 5% of their corpus each and every year. So, if you got a big foundation, that could be a big check. Incorporate spectroscopy and demonstrations of binoculars in the planisphere as part of your outreach. And I also say send your club's best negotiators to resolve problems, not necessarily people who are the site leaders. You just evaluate the talent you have and just plug and play. People are always willing to help out. So I'll end this, and then after this, if you're willing to give me just a moment, a personal moment, I'm going to ask for presenter. I want to share something personal with all of you. It's something personal that is literally came together right before I began this talk. So stick with me. But let's end by the famous poem that was written during World War II by Ralph Hodgson when he went out in the meadows and he wrote his famous military song. And this is in all deference to the great comet hunter David Levy, who used to do a radio program called Let's Talk Stars. I stood and stared. The sky was lit. The sky was stars all over it. I stood. I knew not why. Without a wish, without a will, I stood upon that silent hill and stared into the sky. My eyes were blind with stars, and still I stared into the sky. So here's my breaking news for everybody, a personal item to share with you, let me tell you what it is. There's some stuff going on with me. I need to move, okay? The Hamils need to move. And although I have a lot of friends in the astronomy club, there's some specific reasons why I need to relocate. You look at the cloud forecast. This is NASA's done one too. This is the global map. A lot of you have probably seen this from NASA, which is a 13-year world cloud history. If you look here in the United States, where you guys are, you're in a pretty good spot. Where I am in the Twin Cities, unfortunately, some of the worst skies in all of America. So that plays into it. And what I want to let you know is, as you look this through, where in the world is the traveling astronomer moving to? The answer? I'm moving to you. So I kid you not, everyone. This is absolutely, if you're willing to put up with me, I'd love to not only just be an honorary member of your club, but an actual member. And so what I would ask all of you is, if you're interested in connecting with me at some point, my email address is on the screen, brandon.hamil@icloud.com. If you'd send me your name, I would ask for your cell phone number, I would ask for your home address, and anything about astronomy you like, and I'll put you in my phone's contact, and I am very good about replying with all of my personal information too. So I really thank this club. This was a lot of fun for me to present to you guys, and I will I'll end my my talk at this point and return control to you, Michelle.
Well, while we wait for Michelle to come on, I want to thank you, Brandon, for the presentation. That was quite a presentation. Really appreciate it as the Vice President for Programs, and you're certainly welcome to us at any time.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, Michelle's coming on. Brandon, yeah, I had the opportunity to go out to the Onan site that you guys had out there. What a great site.
Yes.
You guys are so great. I had a lot of fun, good time. And I recommend anybody that goes up there to go and visit that site. You just got to realize that the mosquitoes in North Dakota and Minnesota are 3 times bigger than the ones here in Texas, and they're very aggressive. So I had to move out early because I wasn't prepared for the mosquitoes.
Yeah, good point. If you come visit, run into Target or Walmart, make sure you get some bug wipes to lather yourself up or track down a member. We'd be happy to help you out.
Yeah, I grew up there, but I forgot about all that.
Yeah, you're a North Dakota boy. I remember you telling me.
All right. Anybody else with any other questions? When are you moving to DFW?
So you guys, when I said this came together, we made an offer on a house last weekend, and we had it inspected, and the inspection ended shortly before I had to give this talk, or I would probably dial in a few minutes early. So so this is pretty exciting. So probably I would say within the next 6 weeks is the answer to your question, Michelle.
Wow. Welcome, welcome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you and connecting with you. So shoot me an email, brandon.hamil, Hamil, only one L, like Hamilton without the ton, at icloud.com.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions before we let him go?
Sounds like he's got his work cut out for him. Moving is so much fun.
But we'll look forward to having you. Just let us know. We'll help you move in.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
You.
All right. Okay, is that going to echo on me?
I need to take a deep breath.
We're back to the little bit into the room, a little bit of Zoom. Here in the meeting room, not everybody had their phone or their pad, and so John had his computer. He had it set up so those who didn't have access could watch it on a little bit larger screen. And then, of course, we had the lights down, so we had to turn them up gradually before anybody got all blinded. Okay, that was a great presentation and something to look forward to when Brandon moves in. Okay, let us move on to the business meeting portion of this. Want to start out again with the e-group list. Those of you who are new to the club, we do have the iOS e-group, and I'm sure that John has given you instructions on how to get signed up in there. We do have a lot of families in our club. And so one of the things we recommend is that you create an email address that's like a Gmail account or something like that, so that it's something that the whole family can access. We do limit it to 1 email address per membership. So it's per family, per individual, but per family. If you'll do that, then everybody can access that 1 email And it's just easier for us to keep track of who is and who isn't authorized to be on there. Again, all the new members, you know, Debbie, right? Debbie and Mac. I remembered Mac because I had Mac written down from the information. And so they're here tonight, and hopefully, I don't know if our other couple is on, but all of the new members, thank you very much to everybody who has listened to our request to hook up with other club members before going out to the dark sites. That's just very helpful for everybody. It's very important when you go out to Decatur, because that is land that we are allowed to use by the Thompson Foundation. And if there are newbies who show up who don't know what's going on, and they happen to ask somebody who's not an astronomy person, you know, they're going, why aren't you taking care of your people? So that one especially is important. It's also helpful because they're not always easy to get to. So the first time it's helpful to follow somebody out there. For those of you who do email, not everybody checks their email every 5 minutes. So put it out there as early as possible if you want to go out for the weekend. And those of you who are going out, if you'll check your emails before you leave your house to see if there's anybody who wants to hook up with you, that will help to get connections going there. Okay, something I wanted to go over is to remind everybody, and I think we did this last month, in June, we actually have elections for the next slate of officers and board members. For those of you who are new, especially, one of the qualifications is that you do have to be a member in good standing and to have been a member for 1 year. So if you just joined, you know, in the last 6 months, unfortunately, you're not going to be eligible to be on the board at this point in time. Those of you who've been here a while, if you are interested in a position, please let us know. Approach one of us on the board. We are only allowed for the bylaws to continue in our terms for X number of years. So if there's no one else who wants to be president next year, I'm more than willing to serve another year and maybe actually get meetings again in person. But John is again willing to be our treasurer, unless somebody wants to take his position. And Zach, hopefully you'll be able to continue as our secretary. If there's somebody else who wants to volunteer for that position, let us know. 2 of the board positions will need to be filled. These are just general board members who attend the board meetings and of course offer advice and opinions. So we will have to have 2 new members of the board. Though the board members, again, for the new people, we have 4 general board members, and each of those board members serves 2 years, and they're sort of staggered. So you might have 2 people going out, and then you've got 2 people who stay in for another year, and then their term ends, and another couple of people come in to fill that. So if you're willing to serve in any of those positions, let us know, okay, so that we can go ahead and get you slated for vote so that we can get those positions filled. Next up is your treasurer's report. John is here.
Michelle?
But I think, yes, hold it.
Yeah, I want to make sure folks know the vice president position is open. I've done 2 years, and that's the limit on the VP position.
Okay, if everybody wanted to make sure everybody hears that, Ed wanted to make sure that we understood, we definitely will need a new vice president. He is ending his term of 2 years, and that's the maximum. And if you want any information or any help, I'm sure he'll be able to give you that information and help you get settled into the vice president's position. Okay, now I guess we're ready to go to John. And I think he's going to share his screen. Three. We have 3 non-members here.
in and becoming a member. I'll read this through that, so you can look at it. You notice this QR code down here. If you have a phone or other intelligent device, you can just scan that, and that'll take you over to the place to start entering steps. And I guess with the experience for you guys, is that okay? Getting the membership? Okay. Yeah. So, like I gave her that. One thing I wanted to mention, just as an abbreviation here, you know, last Monday we had a near Earth object go whizzing by the Earth, 12,000 miles. So just to give you some idea of how close that is, the geostationary satellites are usually around 20. It was close, and it was about the size of a bus or a large car is what it sounded like. So we have these going all the time, various and sundry observatories like Hamil was mentioning. Part of their process is to look for these things. Unfortunately, a lot of them, we don't know they exist until a day or two before. Okay, so
Can everybody hear John on this Zoom call?
No, he's muted.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's why I was checking before you got too far into this. Because I wasn't hearing him through my ears, and but I could hear him here in the room.
He's showing us muted to us.
there you go. No, I'm not. Okay, that better?
That's better.
Hey, what a deal. Okay, currently, unlike Minnesota, we're not at 600, but we are at 170, which is really a very nice number compared to previous years. So we've had a lot of, huge amount of activity since August of last year. I think people were just getting tired of staying in. And we got those people. So far this year, we've had fewer members join compared to the last 5 months of 2020. But that is a typical amount, that's a typical number of people. As in previous years, the breakdown of memberships is typically 2/3 family and 1/3 of individuals. You can see from our graph here, we have a very nice curve going on. Every year in the June, July timeframe, we go through this little thing because that's when we do renewals. And so one of the things that is coming up is May 1st. The fiscal year for membership is June 1st to May 31st. So May 1st, we start sending out renewal notices to people for 2022. It'll go from June 1st of 2021 to May 31st of 2022. And we'll needle you to death until you give us money. And see what I could call. The financial examination was completed in March, and unfortunately, it wasn't on time to get approval from the executive board meeting in March. So the next board meeting is in May. And it's already been submitted for approval there. And as soon as that's approved, then I would assume that in the May meeting, that report will be provided for the membership. We did have some other sort of, I would call them obtuse things. We had a member of the Albuquerque Astronomy Club that grandmother wanted to show her grandson, I think it was, the night sky. Apparently, she gave him a telescope, and I haven't done much with it. So we conversed back and forth several times, and Matt Reed agreed to sponsor them for a trip out to Thompson. So we got the due diligence form signed and whatnot, and they went out on a Friday night, and according to Matt, they had a really great time. We also, part of our outreach, our Facebook presence, we get people frequently asking us questions about, well, it doesn't work when I do this. So we tell them typically don't do that. And a few want more explanation for this, but I have to tell you, this one that I work with last month was a real peach. She had a Newtonian, and the lid on the Newtonian, so it was like 5 inches, and there was like a 2-inch knob in the center for a purpose I cannot begin to wonder. And she couldn't see. And I talked with her for a while about it, and she had no idea that that whole lid had to come off. She just laughed so much. I thought it was funny. It's like, you know, I can tell you, we all make silly mistakes like that. And I think, what else I might have here? So the bigger thing for the treasurer at this time is working on the renewal requests for the next fiscal year, as well as preparing the roster for the Astronomical League. I think we probably need to have some kind of discussion on AL so that the general member, since we have so many new people, is understand how they can use the tools that AL provides, pins and certificates and so forth. So, and I think that's all for me. Any questions? We don't use Bitcoin, so don't offer.
And just a word of explanation for those who are members for a while. I know that normally when we have meetings in person, you know, we can go to John and say, here's my money, or here's my check. And obviously we haven't been able to do that. So in order to accommodate the new members that have come in since January, because in January, the club dues actually cut in half. So they're not paying a full year's membership and only getting a few months. And everything's done online. So that's how our PayPal is set up right now. So membership renewals will go back to full amount May 1st, correct, John?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So if any of you were interested in joining now, this is the 20th of the month. My suggestion would be to wait 10 days. You'd pay the full amount in May, but you get 13 months of membership.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think that's it. So let me unshare.
Okay. There we go. Ed, did you have anything, or did Mark Smith have anything to share on any of our possibilities for land use grants, investment type stuff?
Yeah, Mark and I just had some email exchanges, and I updated the survey spreadsheet. After probably tomorrow, I'll send that out to the board, and then with the latest information, And then my plan was to contact Chris Swenson to arrange a visit out to SOFAR. The weather's good now. A lot of people have been vaccinated. We should be able to get a date out there to go out and see the site at SOFAR, so people can get a feeling for how to get out there, what's out there, where it is, and is it worth club investment. And so that's what's coming up. Is I'm going to get back with the officers and the board and the group that's with the latest information. I have 37 responses on the Dark Sky survey, and I haven't received many for a while, just trickling one or two a week. So I think I've pretty much got it down as to where the club, what the club feels about it. That's it.
Okay. Okay. Again, we're into this weird, a little bit of Zoom, a little bit of in person. I think we ended up with 15 people actually here in person. So that's really nice. That's a little bit more than we expected here on our first outing. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you for joining us on Zoom. I want to go ahead and open it up for questions or just discussions. I'm going to start with the people here in the room first. So, is there anybody sitting here in the room that has a question that we need to answer? Nothing that I see. I know that at least I think we had 3 people who said they weren't members currently. Thank you to Zach for getting information out on Facebook on where we would be meeting in person and doing the Zoom. Sean, thank you. I don't think you're on Zoom, but Sean got that up on our website so that we were able to get information out so people would know we were going to start trying to meet in person. At least one of the people here this evening is a former member who's hopefully coming back. So thank you very much for being here. Okay. Anybody on the Zoom call who has anything that they want to share with the group? Okay, well then we're gonna say good night. I'll leave the Zoom open for a little bit for those of you who want to go ahead and chat. I'll keep it open for as long as I'm here in the hotel, and maybe it'll just switch to my cellular after I leave, but that way at least you can talk amongst yourselves, okay? So thank you very, very much, everybody. I'm happy.
Okay, good night all.
Good to see you again. It's been a long time.
I know. It has been a while.